Chris, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Good to have you on the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed your podcast, and I feel like we're on similar paths and similar personalities. In that, what I see of you is just really striving to learn, like trying to figure out what other people know. How can I learn? How can I apply this? And that curious spirit is something that I'm definitely connected and linked with. I appreciate that about what you're doing.
Yeah, for a long time, I didn't really embrace that part of myself, and then when I did, I became a lot more satisfied. So yeah, it's nice to see that shown in the real world.
So when you said I wasn't embracing that side of myself, what would be the alternative to that? Do you feel like you were gaming things or that you had it all figured out? What did that look like for you?
When I was younger, I'm a club promoter by trade, right? I've filled 1,000 nightclubs over my career. I've put about 1 million people into them. So I've stood on the front door and watched 1 million people walk past me and go into events that I've run. That's not the environment for talking about like our higher purpose or whether there's aliens out there or if we can genetically engineer life so that it can survive space travel. Like that's you don't. It's all right, darling. Hi, mate. How are you? Shake your hand. Give me £5. Get in the club. Like that's the way it works. That's
Sure.
the environment that you're in. And I had reverse engineered the person that I was to fit the environment that he existed in.
Mm.
What that meant was I was existing very transactionally in my personal relationships, in my professional relationships. Everything was quite transient, and yeah, for a long time, man, that was life. And maybe that's a lot of young guys. In fact, I think that is. You see guys that they absorb values and levels of status and the things that they want from the world that other people want when they're in their early 20s, and the model and the values that serve them when they're 21 do not serve them when they're 31. And you really, really need to get a hold of that. And one of the saddest guy archetypes that we see now is the adult infant. You know, the dude that's 40 years old and still partying, getting a bag in with the boys on a weekend. Like, and that's the highlight of his week. There's something tragic about that because we realize that people were built for more, and we realize that this is someone who inculcated values at 20 years old and never let them go.
I think you're bringing up a good point, and for me, I personally have experienced that. I'm 40 years old now, and I think there's a level of maturity that just gradually happens over time. You know, I look at my young kids, for example, and it's very fascinating to watch. My oldest, in particular, he's 13 years old now. He's trying to figure himself out, you know, and so he's got friends and he's got influences and he's seeing stuff on TV or he's watching YouTube. He's watching me and his mom. He's watching other people, and so I think you're right. Is that we just naturally become like the environment that we're around, and if we're surrounded by uh, adult adolescents like you're talking about, well, that's, you know, how you're going to behave. If you're surrounded by incredible people, and I know you are because of the people you've had on your podcast, I'm surrounded by incredible people because of the people I've had on the podcast. It's natural that we're going to start gravitating towards acting and behaving and performing more like those people were around.
That being said, I was around amazing people through my 20s as well. They were just amazing people for my 20s. I've partied with some of the most fun, interesting, wild people probably on the planet. And I'm really, really happy for doing it, whether it's world-class DJs or rock stars or strippers or whatever. Like, that was good. That was fun. And that taught me an awful lot. But it didn't serve me when I was toward my late 20s. And you can hold on to that really, really tightly. You think, right, I've managed to find a sense of belonging. I know who I am, at least in this context. People accept me for the person I am, even if that's not truly me anymore. But at least I know that this persona that I'm playing, people like it. So this insecurity can cause you to hold on to it because you think if I hold on to this, I'm going to continue to be accepted. I'm going to continue to be allowed to move forward within this world. And if you want to grow and progress, if you want your outward experience, your outward appearance, and the way you present yourself to reflect your inner experience, you need to be able to let go of that. And that's scary, right? It's stepping over the threshold.
Well, it is scary, and I'm wondering how you dealt with that because I hear from a lot of guys who know they want to experience something different. They want to graduate, they want to mature, they want to find themselves in different circles, and yet they have experiences and more often people that they feel latched to, and they have a difficult time letting go of those individuals. Did you experience any of that as you strive to make your growth and progression in your own life?
No, for me, the only thing that was holding me back was my own fear around whether people would like me in general.
Mm.
I didn't have any dependents, single guy, runs his own business, gone to pretty big lengths to make himself uncancelable, and I didn't need anyone. So the only thing that was holding me back was the pure fear of no longer belonging itself. The question around what does it mean? Who am I if I am no longer the club promoter that stands on the front door? Because there's something inside of me that feels like I should be, how would you say, nourishing my intellectual curiosity or whatever, right? That was the biggest obstacle for me to overcome. So it was letting go of the fear and the terror around no longer being the identity. And the thing is, you can play a role for so long that you genuinely don't know who you are anymore. You just have persona upon persona upon persona, and you've buried the real person so deep down that you actually have to go excavating to work out who it is.
Hmm.
This is why I think we see suicides in actors who outwardly have everything sorted, because people don't love them for who they are. They love them for the role that they play. We
Right.
don't love Russell Crowe, we love Gladiator. We don't love Chris Hemsworth, we love Thor. Like, if you spend your life playing a persona and hiding who you truly are, you can end up at a place in life not only that you don't want to be, but that you didn't even mean to get to. And this is how you can feel alone in a crowd and hollow in victory, because all of the love and the adoration that you're getting from people isn't because of you, it's because of a role that you played. So there's always this degree of separation from what you did and how you feel about the accolades that you get from it. It's like, yeah, club promoter Chris did well today, give him a pat on the back. But it doesn't fill you existentially. It doesn't really make you feel whole. And when that happens, when you start to feel hollow from your achievements, that's probably a pretty good identifier that, look, there is a discordance here between what I truly feel compelled to do and the actions that I'm taking, between the identity that I'm playing publicly and the identity that I hold privately.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I also think there's another thing that happens, and I see this with members of the military, is that their identity becomes so wrapped up in what they do, and there actually is deep, meaningful purpose to the work they're doing. And for whatever reason, it gets stripped away. Maybe they decide to retire, maybe they're medically retired, maybe they just hit an age bracket and it's time to move on. And because they've wrapped up their identity so much in this one thing, that I'm a soldier, a warrior, now they're no longer that. And they actually feel worthless because they haven't figured out, like you're saying, who they really are outside of what they do.
Terrifying, man. So here's a question to ask yourself. Do people love me for who I am? Or do people love me for what I do? And that's a really fucking hard question to answer. Do people love me for who I am? And do people love me for what I do? And the first person you need to ask that question to is yourself. Because a lot of the time we say, I want the world to love me for who I am. Meanwhile, I'm going to love myself for what I do. I'm not going to love me for the qualities and the values and the integrity that I know inherently exist inside of me. I'm only going to pat myself on the back if I manage to get that new promotion at work, that new sales target, that new growth with the business, whatever. You're asking the world to do something that you haven't got around to doing yet.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that distinction, because when you first posed that question, do people love me for who I am or what I do? I was about to say, before you filled in the blank there, I don't even think that's the right question to ask. The right question is what you just said. That's the first question, is how do you feel about yourself? Because that's the person you got to live with. And also, if you're worried about, do other people love me and who I am, what I do, like all of this stuff, you're going to be very tempted to be something that you're not, because you think that's going to gain the accolades or admiration from other people.
I think if you ask the question, do people love me for who I am, correctly, with enough introspection, I think that you should still arrive at a pretty worthwhile place. I'm someone that is definitely too self-reliant, so this is like quite a hard won lesson for me, that if you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, go alone. And for a long time I went really fast, but it was in solitude, and then I would end up hitting some sort of a wall, whether that be like a miniature breakdown because I'd worked so hard, or whether that be just running out of steam or energy or killing my motivation or killing my passion for a particular project because I didn't have anybody else there gassing me up, because I just presumed I could get there on my own. And I think that actually stepping into the discomfort of working out, do people actually like me? Are there people out there who love me for who I am? Especially for a young guy, when you've got this family around you, this sort of big community that you've built, that's a question, hopefully, that starts to be filled a little bit. That bucket starts to get filled a little bit more easily. But for somebody who is a young dude between, 25, 35, maybe hasn't got the family set up yet, maybe still hasn't quite found their calling in life, stepping into the discomfort of, do people love me for who I am? Like, do I feel like I have inherent worth in this world aside from the accomplishments and the things that I achieve? That's a really important question to ask, because if you can start to stay within the boundaries of, yes, there's people out there who genuinely understand and know me, and they care about me, I think that you're moving toward a pretty good direction.
Yeah, but there's also, even for a guy like myself who has a beautiful family, we've built a great community, like you're saying. I don't disagree with any of that. There's a fear on my side of complacency, where it would be very easy to pad myself from these types of questions and conversations, and what actually could potentially happen. And I need to be very cognizant of this, is that it could all go away. Tomorrow Apple could say, no, we don't like your podcast. Facebook could say, no, we don't want you talking about masculinity. Knock on wood, and heaven forbid, one of my children could die. Like, these are things that could happen. And if we fall into this complacency and pat ourselves from this real introspection, like, we're going to be in for a rude awakening when we lose a job, somebody close to us dies, your job gets taken from underneath you, you come across some medical or financial hardship. We really cannot be complacent just because we feel like maybe today we have those questions answered correctly.
Do you think that complacency comes along for the ride with comfort within yourself and a sense of belonging and love for the identity that you are?
I don't think complacency would be the right word, because that to me has a negative connotation of confidence, I think, is what you're saying. To me, it would be more satisfaction or pride comes from knowing who I am. Fulfillment, maybe.
One of your concerns was that people might get complacent and something could go wrong, and this sort of inherent self-comfort perhaps would leave you vulnerable to that. Have I got that right?
Oh, completely. I mean, there is a vulnerability there unless you shore it up and make yourself aware of, well, here's another way I would say it, is not fooling yourself into thinking that you're better off than you are, or that you're better than you are, or that you're doing better than you really are, or you're better than somebody else. Those are easy things to do when you have some level of success in your life.
The propelling nature of anxiety, like the amount of motivation that you get from fears, from insufficiency, from concerns, like, it's a fucking powerful motivator, man. Like, it'll push you forward incredibly far. I hope that there is a more balanced way to do that long term. I'm not convinced that that is the optimal way to generate momentum for a man in life.
You're saying fear? Is that what you're saying?
Senses of insufficiency,
I
constant anxiety, this ambient sense that something might go wrong, because this is what you would need. This can be taken away from me at any moment. That is a statement. Fear around the fact that I could lose this at any moment is an emotional investment. And trying to be aware of one without letting it exist inside of you and ruin your mood, that's quite a difficult balance to strike for most people. And I think that long term, ideally, you want to get yourself to a place of confident competence where you know that you've got this sorted. So I have a buddy, I have a friend who's very well off, and he makes a lot of money, and he flies around the world driving fast cars and shooting guns and having sex with women. And before he was rich, he would spend a lot of money. So he'd go out and buy a car, and he would only just about have the amount of money to be able to afford it. And then I used to mention, well, look, man, like, what the fuck? Like, you've nearly zeroed yourself out buying this one car. Are you not worried that this may all fall apart and something may go wrong? And he said, future Andrew will sort it. Like, he had so much faith in his future self. Now, you could argue that he had perhaps leveraged himself sort of toward the extreme of that. But that degree of self-confidence, that extrapolation, look, I know where I am. I have fucking faith in what I can do. I understand my trajectory going forward. There's something to be taken from that. He's coming at it from a place, an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. He's not terrifyingly holding on to the things that he has because he's worried that they're not going to go away. He has complete faith that the future version of him will turn up and do whatever needs to be done. Now, again, I wouldn't advise zeroing yourself out to just get a fast hypercar, but I think there's a lesson to be taken.
I agree. I just don't think they're mutually exclusive either, though, right? I think that we can, and that's what you're talking about here with the balance, is that we can find ways. You know, I was talking with my wife the other day, and we were having a conversation about this event that we've got coming up, and we were talking about how we can improve it. Well, we haven't even had the event yet. We're talking about how we can improve it, how we can make it better, how we can impact more people, and that's an abundance conversation, right? Like hopeful, optimistic, abundant. We have the skill set, we have the resources available to be able to do that. So I think there's value in both, but that is the trick, right? Is not going to the extreme where it's kind of like that, the anecdote of the survivors. And I can't remember what book this was in, but they talk about those who are overly optimistic end up dying in extreme survival situations because they think that it's not going to be hard and they don't do anything to save themselves. And those who are overly pessimistic, they die too because they actually self-fulfilling prophecy. They make it worse for themselves. It's those who are realistic about the real dangers and the real threats, but the real opportunities to be able to self-save, you know? So there is that balance in the middle of where do you fall between being optimistic, but then also observing and being acknowledging of the threats that could potentially arise.
We struggle to let go of that anxiety because it's a motivating force as well. So like a lot of people, they don't want to feel too confident or have too much faith in their future self because that feels like complacency. It feels like if I let go of these feelings of insufficiency, I'm not going to be driven anymore. Because a lot of young guys have been driven by wanting to get that chick, get that house, feel desired in the world, feel like they're sufficient. And then when they do begin to get that, they're scared that if they no longer feel insufficient, they're going to take their foot off the gas. And that was the thing that drove all of their success in the first place.
Well, what does that say about the types of motivation that people have? Do you feel like there are inferior and superior forms of motivation? I mean, you might take your foot off the gas if you're not motivated towards that pursuit anymore, but maybe you just naturally wouldn't if you were fired up about something, if there was real meaning in what you're doing.
It depends whether you think that the ends justify the means. If you think that the only thing you're concerned about is the outcome of what your motivation gets you, then it doesn't really matter how you get there. But most people, I think, now have realized that the journey really is the thing that's important. You need to enjoy the process of whatever the thing is that you're doing, or else what's the fucking point? Like, genuinely, why are you here? Why are you here if you're going to kill yourself to get yourself to a place that when you're there, you're still not going to be satisfied because you're terrified of losing motivation by finally being satisfied? Fuck off. Like, get a better grip of the way that you're existing. Don't get me wrong, man. Like, I'm speaking to myself here. Like, I have the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset are constantly at war in my mind. Like, terrified of losing the things that you've got, or of failing publicly, or of this being taken away from you, the thing that you finally found that you think is going to... But you just need to have that sense of ease and grace and sort of embodied confident competence in yourself. Like, I do think that different forms of motivation have differing values, because one can make you miserable and one can make you happy en route. Like, as you're climbing a mountain, if you're only happy when you get to the top, that's what, 99% of the time, and then there's another mountain to climb. Like, you have to be able to take some moments of joy throughout. And that's not to say that, like, you need to be loving all of the things, grinding away. You doing this podcast, me doing my show. Like, there are times when I cannot be fucked doing another ad read, when I cannot be fucked doing another set of research. It's the 10th time I've tried to tell people about some particular sponsor, or this thing hasn't uploaded to YouTube, or this one's been taken down, or whatever. Like, that sucks. It's not always going to be good. But you need to allow yourself to enjoy that walk up the side of the mountain, because it's just, this is trite to say, but it's too much of a waste of time otherwise. Like, you cannot spend your life waiting to get to the top of a mountain when 99% of the time you're fucking miserable, no matter how motivated you are. Like, yes, you did something that was absolutely incredible, but you were miserable. What point is there in that? You were terrified or fearful, or you had feelings of insufficiency and scarcity. You were mean to the people around you. You never actually... Here's another one, right? So I spoke to Aubrey Marcus, guy that's just sold On It to Unilever for like some terrifying undisclosed amount, hundreds of millions of dollars. Terrifying number. And he had this video at the launch of his book, New York Times bestseller, and he's talking to the crowd and he's saying, if I could go back, the only thing that I would change would be my fears that I wasn't going to be stood right here, the place that I was going anyway. All of the time that I should have been eating a sandwich or laughing with friends or just enjoying the work that I was doing, I was so scared that I wasn't going to be stood right here, right now, the place that I was going to end up in any case. And I think that that completely highlights how our framing of a situation can completely change our experience of it. Aubrey was going to get there. He was going to have the best-selling book. What he did was he just lashed himself the whole way there, all the time. All he was doing was hurting and feeling scared and terrified that he wasn't going to get there. Whereas he could have looked back and just enjoyed the journey. Now, there's an argument to be made. Without that fear of insufficiency, would he have worked so hard as to have been able to get the thing?
Sure.
But if you work so hard that you hate it, what's the fucking point of getting there in any case?
I agree. I agree. Do you think there's a problem with the way that generally we view goal setting? Like, let me give you an example. One of the questions I get all the time is, Ryan, where do you see Order of Man going in 5 years? And my answer is, I don't know. I have no idea, because I'm more worried about this conversation that I'm having, Chris, with you, than what I'm going to be doing 2 days from now, let alone what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. And I think sometimes that stymies our growth and creative process and ability to be flexible as life deals blows, but also provides opportunities we may not have experienced otherwise.
Yeah, man. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Like, what are you doing every single day? Are you doing something that you genuinely enjoy? That being said, when James Clear brought out Atomic Habits, everyone was adamant that process was going to completely win the day. I'm not convinced that that's true. I think that process without goals can lead you to a place that you didn't mean to get to. The two need to exist together. Goals are great for motivation. That's why on the 1st of January, everyone's got a big kick up the arse. It's also good because it reminds you of the direction overall that you're going in. Like, if you're running a marathon, you need to make sure that your running form is correct and that your posture's right, that your hydration, all of the different things. But if you're running in the wrong fucking direction, you do not get to win the marathon. There is a difference between direction and speed, right? Direction is more important than speed. If you are going in the right direction, even at 1 mile an hour, every single day you're making progress. You can go as fast as you want, but if you're going in the opposite direction, you're making life harder for you, not easier. So I think that goals are important, but they're not everything. Check in. Set yourself a goal. Every year you can set it, and then you can do 90-day sprints throughout the year. Or if you're more goal set minded, you could do it every 6 months and do 90-day sprints in between. That's an easy way to do it. It'd take you half a day. What's that? 2 full days a year. Split up into half days. There you go. There's your goals, checking in all the time. What would it take for me to be able to get to the place that I want to get to? What would I have to do every day? Don't want to use my phone before 9 a.m. or after 8 p.m. because I know that wastes time. I want to make sure that I train 5 days a week because that makes my mind good, and that means that I'm in physical health because that's not going to degrade. I want to spend this much time with my family. I want to do this. Those are your non-negotiables. Brilliant. There's the process. What will the process end up with? It should get you toward the goal. And after 90 days, you can look back and go, actually, I thought that I could intermittent fast on my phone, but it turns out that I actually need to do loads of social media on an evening time because that's when there's opportunities for growth or Instagram lives or collaborations or whatever. Or I need to spend more time with my family because I thought that I could get away with this much and I need to actually have more. So sweet, check in. That's the iteration of how we go like that. Overall, I think that most people believe that goals will bring them complete fulfillment, and that's wrong. But also those people don't focus enough on the process. So you need to have both existing together.
Yeah, what I hear you saying and talking about is even the distinction and difference between discipline and motivation. And I think motivation gets a bad rap. everybody's like, we hear these memes about like discipline is better than motivation, or motivation is failing and discipline is the God that we should all strive for. I'm like, well, no, actually, I think there's a great place for motivation. Like what, like you're listening to a podcast, like obviously you want to be motivated and inspired to some degree. Like this isn't about discipline. Like nobody ever once said, I'm going to be disciplined by listening to Ryan's podcast every Tuesday for the next 52 weeks. Cause that doesn't matter. You're here to be motivated and inspired. And I think there's a time and place for it. And like I said, in this modern world, it seems to me that motivation, inspiration gets a bad rap, and discipline is the only thing that matters. But that seems miserable. Like I don't want to be robotic. I can be if I need to. I can be robotic for a period of time to accomplish something I'm motivated by, I'm inspired by.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know where it came from. Maybe within the last 5 years, motivation has kind of got a bad rap. I don't know whether it's the internet and sort of people posting motivational quotes on Instagram and bodybuilding motivation videos on YouTube and stuff like that. But absolutely, man, if I listen to something that gets me fired up, I'm going to use that fuel. It's like you trying to build a really big fire and chopping down wood every single day. Chopping it down, carry it to the fire, chop it down, carry it to the fire. And then one day, out of nowhere, a fucking tree falls on the fire. And you're like, oh, I better not use that tree. I better not use that free fuel that I've just got out of nowhere. No, obviously not. Like, get a hold of it. If somebody comes in and pisses you off, and the next day you wake up and you're fired up, you're not going to say, I'm not going to use this motivation. I better wait until I calm down. It's like, no, fucking take a hold of that. And the same thing goes for if it's the 1st of January and you go, you know what it is? I got, like, November and December last year, they wrecked me. Like, they owned my life. I'm going to get back at it. And you spend a little bit of time alone with thoughts, or you do whatever it is that you need to do, and you wake up on January 1st fired up and ready to go. Like, yeah, get after it. Yes, it will wane. Of course it's going to wane. Motivation doesn't last forever. I think the concern that people had around motivation was that they were going to forget about discipline. They were going to believe that they could YouTube motivation quote themselves to having constant discipline, which wasn't going to happen.
Right.
But if you have the opportunity to get that nitrous boost, man, take it.
Well, I mean, we live in this world of like binary options and false dichotomies. Like that's what you're saying. Like if I'm motivated, if I use motivation, then I won't be disciplined. No, like you can do both. That's the beauty of it. You can do both. I mean, we've talked about these false dichotomies throughout this conversation already, 3 or 4 that we've already hit on. But yeah, you said oversimplification. That's right. People just want to look for a very simple black and white answer. Tell me what it is. Good. I'll just do that 100 miles an hour. It's like that's probably not going to work for you.
Yep.
When you talked about what did you call it? Confident competence. Is that what you called it?
Yep.
How does one begin to develop that if they're moving into a new space or venture, trying to figure out their new identity, and they don't have any level of success in that particular field? Because I know there's a lot of guys who want to do different things, whether it's get into the gym or start a new job or create a business. And yet there's a lot of mental baggage going on because they don't have success, and maybe even some imposter syndrome there.
Yeah, man. So this is very common. People that go and try and do something new, by its very nature, you're going to feel like an imposter. You're trailblazing new ground, maybe ground that no one has ever done before, and at least ground that you have never trodden on before. Of course you're going to feel like an imposter. You would have to be unhinged not to. You have no evidence that you can do the thing that you're trying to get yourself to do. Imposter syndrome isn't a bug, it's a feature. Like, this is you accurately predicting the way that the world is around you. That's a good thing. You're able to see, okay, I am in a new space. I'm uncertain around my capacities in this space. So let's prove to myself that I have competence with some small steps. What is the smallest step that you can take that proves to yourself that you are competent in the gym? Okay, well, I need to go. Okay, so go. Go to the gym. Go to the gym once. Go to the gym twice. Go to the gym 3 times. You're not trying to become the biggest guy in the gym. You're trying to become the sort of person who goes to the gym. That's what you're trying to build up. The same thing goes, you go into a new business. You're like, okay, I'm going to start this new business. Do you have any idea about whether this business is going to work or not? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But as you build up confidence in yourself over time, let's say you're starting a podcast or starting a YouTube channel or something, the first episode will suck. as will the second and the third and the fourth. And then eventually you get to a point where they're slightly less shit. And you go, wow, look at that. A tiny little bit of competence that I've earned. It's like been created through pressure, like a diamond. And you think, cool, that is a signal that I have been able to build something up in this place. Now, can you fake it until you make it? Yeah, up to a point. You can certainly have analogous competences in other areas of your life. Let's say that you've previously been in a job where you've done customer service, right? And you've had to speak to people on the phone. It's not a million miles away from doing a podcast. You can speak to people, you're competent, you do whatever. Let's say that you've never been to the gym before, but you've worked a 9 to 5 for the last 5 or 10 years. Okay, so you've shown that you have industriousness, that you can be conscientious, that you can stick to a routine, that you're able to take orders and instructions from people. Like, that's not a million miles away from the gym. These are correlating competencies that you can bring across, and you can say, look, I can have faith in myself that I've done this hard thing, therefore I can do this other hard thing. So you build up trust in yourself layer by layer, like fucking varnishing a table, bit by bit by bit. And this is one of the things, it's World Mental Health Day this Sunday, and one of the concerns that a lot of people have is they don't have faith in their own word. They don't have trust that they will do the thing that they said they were going to do. And the way that you fix that is by taking the smallest possible promise that you can make to yourself. I am going to stop drinking on a nighttime. I am going to stop cheating on my wife. I am going to fucking go to the gym, go for a morning walk, start to meditate, whatever it is. Do one push-up a day. Pick the smallest possible thing. Because that is going to prove to yourself that you are the sort of person that can keep promises to yourself. And over time, the promises can get bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, I think imposter syndrome is a feature, not a bug. I think that you can use other competencies that you've had that are analogous to what you're doing now, and you can draw those across and you can take strength from that. And if you want to build this up, if you feel like, look, I don't really feel that confident generally, just across the board, I don't have faith in my own word. Okay, start small. Start like stupidly, embarrassingly small, and do that, and then just layer it up and layer it up over time.
Sometimes when people start small, though, they simultaneously they'll hear that and think, okay, that's a good idea. But then they'll simultaneously say, this is stupid. One push-up. Come on, I can do more than that. And it's like, then you're fighting against yourself. Because on one hand, you're saying, hey, I got to start somewhere. And on the other hand, you're saying, well, I'm not good enough, or it's not enough. And so I'm not even going to do it at all.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. So easy fixes around this are to mark them off on a board. So I have a whiteboard in the corner of my room that's just a big calendar, and there's big red X's for a bunch of different things. And if I've done all of the different things, I get to put an X on it. Man, that's satisfying. Like, if you pick the things that you need to do and you get to look back on a 30-day or a 31-day month and it's just filled with big red X's, and there's maybe a couple of days that you've missed off because of some catastrophe, that's a win. Like, that's really satisfying. You look back on it and you go, yeah, I did it. And yeah, okay, maybe it's one push-up, but yesterday you did fucking none. So who's the loser? The guy that does one or the guy that does none? Because the guy that did one is doing infinitely more than the guy that did none.
Well, I think, hey, look, if that's the way you feel, like, oh, this is not enough, okay, then do 3 push-ups. Like, you have the power to do that, but it is just interesting. I think what a lot of people believe, let's take podcasting, for example. So I'll have guys that'll reach out, and you probably do too, something similar to this. And they'll have a 9 to 5, they'll have a job that they're not real satisfied with. And, they're paying the bills and there's something to be said for that, but they're not totally satisfied with it. And they want to start a podcast, and they think to themselves, but I can only do it 2 hours a week. So I guess I won't do it. And that's so frustrating to me, is they think it's so small. And here's the problem, I think, and I want to ask you about this is, does this come from some sort of weird or false expectation of what it takes to be successful, or what somebody quote unquote should be doing in order to achieve, whatever it is they're after?
Yeah. It's people believing the perfection myth. So perfection is procrastination masquerading as quality control.
I like that. Say that again.
Perfectionism is procrastination masquerading as quality control.
Yeah. Interesting.
So you believe that if I can only do one push-up, or if I only do one push-up, then it's pointless doing any push-ups, because the perfect number of push-ups would be like 100 or something. With the podcast, if I can't produce the Joe Rogan level, Ryan Mickler quality podcast in however much time I have per week, then there's no point in doing it at all. Which is the complete opposite, because everybody starts in a shitty place. The problem is that we take motivation, and this is perhaps a double side of the motivation thing we were talking about. People take motivation from those who are at the top of their game. And it's very difficult to see where they were when they sucked at the beginning. And the delta between the comparison of where we are, scrabbling around in the dark, falling over our own shoelaces, like cursing ourselves for our own fucking ineptitude, and these turbo weapons at the top that just effortless grace and flow and poise and everything's sorted. And you think, well, God, I'm useless. I'm stupid. I suck at this.
Right, it's very discouraging.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's hard, man. This is why focusing on the process and having a little bit of a laid out plan, you need to know that if you want to get to the stage where you have the silver play button from YouTube because you've hit 100,000 subs, it takes, on average, 500 videos for someone to make their first 10,000 subs on YouTube. Here's another stat for you around podcasting. 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3, and of the 90% that do, 90% don't make it past episode 20. So by making 21 podcasts, you're in the top percentile of all podcasters ever that have existed on this planet. What does that tell you? It tells you that most people try something and give it up. The easiest competitive advantage you have is consistency. If you just do the thing and do the thing and do the thing and do the thing, you will end up at a place in life that you actually really feel proud of, because no one else is doing it. Everyone else is getting seduced by competence, how flashy they are, how motivated they are, how much natural talent they have at it. No one's bothered about being consistent because it's not sexy.
Right.
But it's the thing that sets apart the people that are really, really good from everybody else. Because over time, you will become talented and motivated by being consistent. You will find that you have a competence at the thing that you are doing. You will roll it forward so long that you go, fuck, like, I can't stop this anymore. Like, imagine if I said to you, you can't podcast for a month, you would probably go insane.
Oh, 100%.
You would lose your shit.
I podcast every day.
Yep. You would lose your shit. So why is that? Well, it's because you've generated this momentum, and then after a while, you're like, well, I can't stop this anymore. But from the outside looking in, if you were to say to Ryan 10 years ago, hey man, you've got to sit in front of this camera and microphone for an hour, 7 days a week or 6 days a week, you'd be like, I can't do that. That's fucking stupid. I would have to be a world level podcaster. And you go, yeah, how do you think you get there? You do 1, and then you do 2, and then in 10 years' time, you're going to be able to be that guy that you admire.
It's such an important lesson, and you're right. It's just not sexy. And my fear with what you're saying is that people will hear it and they'll say, yeah, yep. And they're nodding up and down. This all makes sense. I agree. Okay, I'm going to be consistent. And then 2 days from now, they're like, it was hard, or I didn't get enough likes on Instagram, and they'll throw in the towel. It's like, I don't know how to like drill this into somebody so they understand it and they do it. But you're 100% right. You know, you take guys like us, and I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, like, I'm not any more talented or gifted or have a great ability to interview or talk to people. In fact, sometimes I don't want to talk to people. Like, this is my natural inclination, but I've overcome it by doing it. We have 800 plus podcasts at this point over 6.5 years, and we have not missed a single podcast, not one podcast in 6.5 years. That's what it takes.
That's monstrous, man. That's really,
you're
really
right there. I mean, you're doing the same thing.
That's true. Yeah. Let's try and get some real fucking like take-home takeaways then, spit and sawdust shit. I think if you're not doing some sort of morning journaling / diary format, I think that you're missing off on an opportunity to check in, just do a little micro check-in on a morning about the things that you want to do. I don't think that you can ship the 6-minute diary, which is what I use, to America, but I'm pretty sure there's a 5-minute journal or something similar. So if you're in Europe, just search 6-minute diary, and if you're in America, use the 5-minute journal. And just on a morning, like, what's the one thing today, pick one fucking thing that if you did that today, you would feel like you'd made progress. And that can be 10-minute walk. That can be meaningful conversation with the wife. That can be hard conversation at work. That can be record a podcast episode, whatever it is. What's that one thing? And just track that. Another thing that you could do would be to have a calendar where you're crossing off, again, a bunch of little different steps that you know will move you toward it. If I do these 3 things today, tiny, tiny little things, don't use my phone before this time. Make sure that I drink this much water. Make sure that I stick to my diet. Do whatever it is. If you make sure that you do those things and look back after a month, like, you will feel satisfied. And to try and maintain that level of motivation that you get in the beginning, what I would say is maybe try and connect a little bit deeper to the purpose about why you're doing the thing that you want to do. Now, not everything you do will come from like this innermost place. Maybe you just want to try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and see if you're shit at it. Like, don't put pressure on yourself. You're here for play. Like, but if there's something where you think, right, I'm really, this is very important to me. I really want to make this relationship work with my wife. I really want to build this business. Connect to that. Why? Why do you want to do that? What would it mean to you if you could complete it? And then here's another fucking awesome question. We've got a quarter of the year left-ish. Ask yourself this. What would have to happen in the next 3 months of this year for you to look back on those 3 months and consider them a success? What would you have had to have done? You've got 3 months. What would you have had to have done in the next 3 months to have looked back on that period and considered it a success? One answer is enough. Okay, there's your answer. Why? There's your why. Now, how can you do it? What are the daily steps that will lead you toward that? I really want to launch a YouTube channel. Okay, what's the first thing that you don't have? I don't have a place to record it. Okay, you need to set that up. I don't understand how YouTube works. Okay, then you need to Google that and work out how it works. And you just step by step by step, you just chew through it bit by bit. So I would say morning journal, get a calendar and cross it off. You can go analog with this as well, which is quite cool. It gives you a bit of distance away from technology, which I think is quite nice. Connect with your why. Ask yourself what you could do over the next 3 months that would look back and consider it a success. And then just go for it. Next action every single time.
So earlier we were talking about our ability to oversimplify things, but I think we have the potential of overcomplicating things too, right? Yep. So you're talking about a YouTube channel. I really want to set up a YouTube channel. You know what? Here's my answer to that. If you really wanted to set up a YouTube channel, you'd have it set up within an hour of listening to this podcast. Like, it would be that quick. But what people do is they're like, well, I don't have a name and I don't have a this and I don't have a website and I don't have a camera and you don't need any of that to set up a YouTube channel. You just need to go sign up and boom, you checked it off the list. But we overcomplicate things. And I know why we do it. At least I think I know why we do it. Most people do it. Is because they want to give themselves an out. Because if it's complicated and hard, then they have an excuse for not actually getting it done. If it was easy, their excuse has gone out the window.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
How do we go ahead?
Well, don't forget that, again, perfectionism is procrastination masquerading as quality control.
Yeah, right. Sure.
So what you're saying to yourself is, I'm not going to start this podcast until I've got the brand name created, and it's got to be the perfect brand name, and it's got to be this, that, and the other. Like, there is a little bit of truth in that, and the kernel of truth is what gives you the ability to actually hold on to it. That if you were to start it as like Ryan Mickler's shit show of an audio world, like,
that actually would probably do pretty good. I'm gonna go buy that domain.
Should we do that? Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, there's a little kernel of truth to it. A piece of advice: if you are feeling like you have a large project which is overwhelming, break it down into individual steps. So David Allen's Getting Things Done has a concept called next action. And in next action, all that you are looking for is, what is the next physical action that you could take that would progress you toward it. So, for instance, you've got to set up the YouTube channel. Well, you can't set up the YouTube channel if your laptop's closed. So you need to sit at the desk, open the laptop, turn on the laptop, open the web browser. Like, this is child stuff. But the reason that we get scared about big projects is that they're overwhelming and we don't know what the next thing is for us to do. If I gave you enough time, you could take individual steps to walk yourself to the moon. It's only 280,000 kilometers away, or 280,000 miles away, sorry. But you could do it step by step by step. But if I told you to walk to the moon, you'd tell me to fuck off. Well, you still might tell me to fuck off anyway, but individual steps. What's the next action that you can do? That's how I would break it down. And if you want, if you're the sort of person that's analytical and can actually do this properly, you can start right here and go, I want to start a YouTube channel. What is every physical next action that I need to go through? Like embarrassing. So here's another one. I've had mental health on my mind because like I said, it's World Mental Health Day this Sunday, and it's something that's quite close to my heart. One of the pieces of advice that I give to people that are really down, having a low mood, perhaps they can't get out of bed, perhaps they're sort of really struggling at the moment. Like, when you're crushed under the weight of existence itself, when you're drowning in thoughts, the tiniest little action takes a superhuman amount of strength, right? Like, it's this
Sure.
Sisyphean
Yeah.
task that you need to be able to do it. So, okay, you need to get yourself out of bed because you know if you stay in bed, you're going to feel more guilty and more ashamed. So, how do we get out of bed? Okay, well, first thing is take a couple of deep breaths because you want to be awake when you stand up. Then you need to pull the covers off you. Then you need to put one leg down on the floor. Then the next leg down on the floor. Then you can sit up. Dude, you've sat up. You were laid down 2 seconds ago. Now you sat up. Well done. Hands on knees. Stand up. Walk up. Go to the door. Get upstairs. Get in the shower. Pants are off before you get in the shower. Like, step by step by step by step by step. And this is how someone that's in their most vulnerable, worst mooded situation can start to chip away at something that only 10 minutes before they didn't think that they could get out of bed and go and have a shower. But they've done it. And the same thing goes for anything else, whether that be starting a business or finding a wife or whatever it is. All of these things are just a sequence of individual next actions.
Can I ask you why the issues of mental health are so important to you? I mean, you talked about it being near and dear to you, and you brought it up a couple of times. Why is this such an important topic and conversation for you?
Yeah, I think I struggled I struggled throughout my 20s with low mood and feelings of disconnect from the world around me generally. And I didn't know where they came from, and I didn't really have any guidance. And I think that a big part of starting my podcast, Modern Wisdom, was trying to find out, trying to understand the world. It's like, this doesn't come with an instruction manual, and it's really, really fucking confusing. And maybe if I spend some time around really smart people and I do some introspection and I learn some more things and I have experiences, maybe that'll make things a little bit easier. And it turned out that I was doing loads of things that, upon reflection, fucking obviously were going to give me low mood. I was working until 3 in the morning, 3 nights a week at one of my club nights. So, like, sleep deprivation is one of the first things that will cause you to have low mood. You can be the happiest person in the world, but if I give you 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you're probably going to be pretty miserable the next day.
Of course.
Now, if you chronically do that over 10 years, how do you think that's going to make you feel? You're no longer going to be able to differentiate between having chronic low mood because it's part of your programming and your lifestyle causing that to occur, because they've become the same thing. They're now the exact same thing. When COVID came around, that was the first time in my entire adult life I'd ever had a stable sleep and wake pattern. Ever. Since I was 18. COVID came and shut all of the nightclubs, and I was like, oh, shit, well, at least I get to sleep now. And I was like, oh, wow, fuck, this is what it feels like to get 8 hours of sleep per night.
Interesting.
So it's something that's really close to my heart, because I think that specifically for men, a lot of the talk and a lot of the campaigns that are being driven at the moment to try and encourage men to talk about mental health doesn't really get at the problem. Saying, so currently there's a It's Okay to Talk campaign in the UK, which isn't really the problem. The problem isn't virtue signaling about the fact that you felt down. It's about genuinely finding someone that can listen to and understand what it feels like to feel incredibly sad. Like, what does it feel like to be drowning in thoughts and to be crushed under the weight of just the world? Ostensibly nothing is wrong, and yet you feel like you have the threat of the entire universe waiting on the other side of that door, and you feel guilty and ashamed because there's other people out there who've got it so much worse than you. And why are you feeling bad? What right do you have to have a problem when there's nothing like actually wrong with your life? That's the conversation around mental health. The conversation around mental health is to talk about how to differentiate yourself from your thoughts, about how to not identify with them, about the importance of making sure that you have a friend that you can call. Like, these are the important ones, but it's kind of become oversimplified and pithy. And those are the campaigns at the moment. And I'm really trying to sort of push forward a narrative of, look, like, there are solutions out there. It doesn't make you any less of a person. Like, there's challenges that you're going to go through. You're going to have low mood. You're going to have times where you're challenged and where you feel upset and where you feel down. And as a guy, there's no need to have shame or guilt around that. Just, here's some steps that might help you, because they help me.
I'm really glad you're talking about it, because it's hard for me to talk about, and my perception, and I'm not downplaying any of that, what somebody might be experiencing. I just have never personally experienced that. Like I've never felt like I've been in the position to be like feel like the world is collapsed. Like some of the verbiage you use, I've never felt that. So it'd be hard for me to relate with anybody and actually talk with somebody who's experiencing that, which I know is a real experience. I just don't have much to share on it because I don't know what it's like. What can I possibly say? And in fact, anything I might say might actually do more harm than good because I'm like, well, what's your problem? You don't have any issues. And you're like, yeah, that's like, I'm thinking that too, you know? So I'm really glad you're talking about it because I don't feel qualified, frankly, to be able to talk about some of this stuff.
So here's another insight that I learned from that, that a really strong way to transcend suffering and things that have hurt you in your life is to teach other people about how to endure them and how to get past them and how to beat them. Let's say that you've had something that was really terrible. Dad left when you were young, went bankrupt, had a horrible divorce, whatever. Like, a way that you can transcend that suffering is to use your experience to aid other people in not enduring it as well. Like
So
that's,
true.
and that for me makes me feel, it vindicates the times that I went through where things were bad, you know. And I wasn't never on the scale of depression, dude. I was a fucking 4. Like I was unable to get out of bed for a couple of days. Like that's as bad as it got for me. But that's still pretty bad, and it means that, like you say, I'm in a unique position where I can speak to certain people that you may not be able to, the same way as you can speak to fathers about fatherhood that I can't. So yeah, that's powerful, to be able to use the things that have hurt you in the past to help other people to not feel that way as well. Like that really does, it vindicates the suffering that you've had previously in a way that not many other things can.
I mean, I can tell you, you brought up fatherhood. You know, I remember when I was younger and my mom had told me that she was going through a divorce with my stepfather. I remember vividly being very, very, very upset about that and like cursing God almost like, why me? Why is this happening to me? And as I started to have children, the answer became clear. I went through that so that my kids will never have to experience that, barring my death. They will never have to wonder if I care about them or if I love them or if I'm around or I'm going to be there to support them or I'm going to miss or make their games. Never. All because I went through that. It made me who I was and it allowed me to be a better father. And and that's a beautiful thing. Like you said, it vindicates a lot of the what we would say negative experiences of our lives.
It's beautiful, man.
I've got a mentor and friend. His name is Sean Whalen, and he says your mess is your message, and this is along the lines of what you're saying here is that your mess meaning the baggage and the experiences and the negativity and the challenges. And I have a lot of guys who will ask me, you know, Ryan, I don't feel valuable. I don't feel like I have value to add. And I think this is what you're sharing, dude. You've been through some crazy experiences that I haven't. You think other people might benefit from the knowledge of how you got through that? So like we all can add value. And I love that you're talking about it's valuable when you share it, when you learn to help other people go through what you've experienced in the past.
Your mess is your message is fucking cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good. It makes a lot of sense. You know, one of the other things that you said too, and I'm always very curious about this, is you were talking about analytical people. I don't consider myself one of the. I don't consider myself analytical or even really all that much of a deep thinker. I'm more of an action driven kind of guy. Like point me in the direction there. Okay, go. I don't think much more about it. So my challenge is like I need to stop and think for a minute and be more reflective. Otherwise, I might just become reckless, which I've done. Just a big reckless, you know, wrecking ball. But I think there's other people who are going to be more analytical and they need to learn how to take more action, right? So we're all different. We got to find where we are on the scale to help propel us forward.
Correct. Yeah, and that is one of the beauties of being able to get into a partnership with a wife or a husband, and also building a business, because you can recruit people that fill the insufficiencies that you have in your life. Like,
Mm.
okay, Ryan doesn't look at the accounts until the day that the accountant emails him to get the yearly accounts done. We need to get someone in that can step
Do you
in
know
for
my?
half a
You
day.
must know my accountant. Like, that
Good
is
judge of character.
100% true.
Good judge of character, man. Yes, we need to get someone that can come in twice a month and can just sit him down and spend an hour with him and make sure that everything's up to date, or else we're going to have a nightmare. Ryan really hates checking his phone, so we need to get somebody in that can do that. Or if you're talking in a family context, very common for dads, lack of patience with the kids.
Mm.
That they used to, they just really struggle with that impatience, and they feel guilty and ashamed because they go, this is my fucking son or my daughter. Like, I should love them. Does this mean I don't love them? No, it doesn't. It just means that you struggle with patience because you're used to having competent people around you that do stuff when you tell them to do it, especially if you're a boss. Or if you work in an organization that's part of teams, you tell someone to do something, you tell the child to do it, and the child does the opposite thing to the thing. So yeah,
Just
quite
out of
rightly you're going to
spite.
get that. Yeah, so yeah, just because they're little bastards. So
That's my youngest. He'll do it. You'll tell him something, and he will not do it, not because he forgets, but because he wants to get at you. It's hilarious
have you
and
tried to play like
frustrating.
reverse psychology with him?
Oh man, I've tried it all, and I don't know. Maybe he's just smarter than me. I don't know.
Outwitted
It's
by an
funny.
infant man. Honestly,
Totally, totally.
it could be happening. So yeah, with that, it's like, okay, so I need to think that when if my wife has the capacity to be patient, I need to bring it up. I need to say, look, like I really want you to help me with my patience here with the kids. Like I want to be more patient, but fuck, it riles me up. Like if I need a moment, can I get you to kind of step in? And maybe there's times where they need disciplining and the wife's a soft touch. So she needs to call on you. Like we have different competencies and you can fill those in. And this is where it comes back to, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Like you need other people around you because they're, over time, your blind spots compound and you end up being this weird caricature of yourself. You end up being this person who has real strengths and huge weaknesses. And if you don't get people to come and fill those, you'll get wiped out by them. There's a concept called never multiply by zero, or it's from mathematics. So you can have 100,000 times by 70 million times by 35 times by 2 times by 0. If you multiply anything by 0, you net out a 0.
A zero.
It's
Sure.
the reason why you can have the best health and fitness regime in the world and eat healthy and never smoke and do all this. But if you drive without your seatbelt, you get in a car crash, you're very dead. Like it doesn't matter how healthy you are now very dead. The same thing goes for if you're a woman a young girl who's getting her education and getting a job and she's got all of these dreams and aspirations, want to travel the world and become professional and find a great husband, and you have unprotected sex at the age of 19 and get pregnant, like that's a big 0. That's the next 18 years of your life now dedicated to raising that child. Like you need to make sure that the things in your life that could wipe you out of the market don't happen. Like the only rule of the game is to never be out of playing it, and avoiding unseen risks by finding other people that can help you, the wife, the business partner, the personal assistant, the other team member, whatever, the friend, the therapist. All of these people fill holes that could cause you to be out of the game at some point in the future.
Yeah, I was just writing that down. I like that analogy. Never multiply anything by 0. I think we sometimes have a tendency to do that because we're egotistical and we're arrogant, and we think that it couldn't possibly happen to me. Yeah, I was thinking about that even with jujitsu the other night. Is like I'll see guys that won't tap to a submission, or they'll do something stupid and reckless and get themselves hurt, and it's like, well, that was dumb. Like now you can't train for 3 months. Okay, that's a problem. Or alternatively, you could have just tapped and the guy would have let go of your arm. And yeah, maybe you would have learned that you aren't as good as you thought you were, but you still get to train. But this is what we do in life, like we cling on to this stuff because we don't want to be perceived as ignorant or dumb or incapable. And we zero ourselves out. It's like, just tap and like keep yourself in the game.
It's the cruel irony of risk, though, that in advance,
True.
risk looks like bravery, and in retrospect, risk looks like cowardice or stupidity. Like it just looks like if you decide to tap, maybe I could have got out of it because you'll never know. And if you break your arm, you feel like an idiot because you should have tapped. So you can't ever run the experiment again. But I think overall, understanding your own personality, like if you're the sort of person it sounds like you are, who errs on the side of risk and action, maybe you need to be aware of that. Maybe you need to actually dial your risk tolerance back by 10%. For me, I'm very conservative, very, very careful and sort of delicate with how I move forward with things. So I actually need to turn mine up. I need to take more risks. So I can probably go to like a 12 out of 10 for me, and that might only be an 8 out of 10 for you. And maybe that's the sweet spot. But this is why you learn things over time. You do something. For instance, I went back to playing cricket last year for the first time in 10 years. I used to play for England and Durham County. I went back to playing cricket. Within the first 30 minutes, I ruptured my Achilles batting.
Oh.
So that's a 12-month injury that I've only just managed to recover from. So at the time, it was great because I thought, brilliant, I can go back to playing cricket. In retrospect, it looks risky and reckless because who the fuck are you thinking that you could pick up a sport after not playing it for 10 years? It's also, rupturing an Achilles playing cricket is like the most British way to rupture an Achilles. Like it's second only to drink it, like rupturing an Achilles drinking tea or having fish and chips or something. So we don't know. We don't know. But now I have that lesson. It's only a mistake if you make it twice. So I now know that if I want to pick up a new sport, if I want to start playing pickleball or tennis or squash or basketball or anything, I probably need to spend a little bit of time conditioning myself into it. That I need to stay at like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 in terms of my athletic output before I've conditioned the tendons and the ligaments and everything to get toward that. And it'll only take a month or a couple of months, but don't dive right in. Okay, that's a fucking big lesson. And was it learned the hard way? Yeah. And did it take 12 months for me to recover? Yeah. But there we go. It's a lesson.
Yes, but also you could have run that experiment if you had the possibility of doing that 100 times or 1,000 or 10,000 times, and it would never, ever happen again. So I also think we need to be careful of placing too much weight on some sort of situation and attaching it to like your action. No, it could have just been a lot of variables and factors that had nothing to do with the action that you took.
Yeah, could have slept poorly the night before, could have not had the right nutrition.
Could have stepped on a rock or something that wasn't cleared off the field or whatever, right? So I think there's a risk conversation that needs to happen where people need to analyze that and really ask themselves, okay, well, what's, if I'm going to take this risk, what's the possible downside? If, for example, somebody's going to start a business. Okay, you got a 9 to 5, you're making 6 figures, you're doing good, you're moderately fulfilled in your life, and you're going to start a business. Cool. What's the downside? You get a few less hours of sleep. Maybe it doesn't actually pan out and you put 20, 40, 80, 100 hours into it and you don't like it. Like the downside is so minimal. Like, why would you not take that risk? We felt the same way when we moved out here to Maine. I moved here from Utah 2.5 years ago. People were like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I could never because I have a job and friends and bills. Yeah, dude, I had the same stuff. But my wife and I vividly talked about this. I remember we said, we're going to go out, and the worst case scenario is we're going to be cold for a couple of years, and then we just move back. Like, that's a no-brainer.
So those are two things. When you're thinking about risk in a decision, there's two things that are quite important. And the first one is, what are the potential costs? So cost-benefit analysis of it. We move out to Maine. It costs us however much for the house and however much in time and potential lost earnings because we've got to change jobs or do whatever. But the benefit is that maybe we're in this place that we really love, in a community that we care about, next to a BJJ gym, which is going to turn me into a killer and blah, blah, blah. The other thing, which is really important, and I only learned about this week, the concept, and it's whether or not a decision is reversible. And a lot of the time, we consider decisions as being unidirectional. That, look, once I've made this, it's game over. Once I do this, it's this for eternity. It's like, no, it's probably not. It's probably not this. Almost all decisions are reversible, except for vasectomies, apparently. So,
I think they are as well, though, right?
You can untie the tubes.
I as far as I understand, there's things that you can do. It doesn't matter, but I think you can't. Those are reversible.
That's a rough situation. If you go through that twice, and then you're like, right, now I'm going to get it again.
I'm not advocating for that, but I think they are reversible.
Tissue down there. Yeah. Is it a reversible decision? Because if it is, it's like me saying, hey man, I'm going to let you spin this roulette wheel. If it lands on your number, you're going to get 35 to 1. If it doesn't land on your number, I'll give you 95% of your money back. Because you can just turn around
Right.
and go back to Utah with the family. And yeah, maybe it's been 2 years and maybe you've got your tail between your legs a little bit. But here's another one, man. So a lot of people know about opportunity cost, which is by choosing to do one thing, you are choosing not to do another. So
Sure.
you can go to the theme park or go to the gym. By going to the theme park, you can't go to the gym. Therefore, the opportunity cost of going to the theme park is not going to the gym. But there's another one called anxiety cost. And this is the discomfort that we exist with for having an open loop left in our mind. So let's say that you still hadn't moved out to Maine, and yet 2 hours out of every day you ruminated about leaving Utah and going to Maine every single day, over and over and over and over again.
Right?
Yeah. Open loop. That's the anxiety cost. Not only is there a cost of making a decision, but there's a cost of not making a decision as well. Because you're constantly going to think, fuck, what if I made that decision? I really want to know. And there is a benefit to simply closing that loop. And this is, I think, what happens when someone has sat with a decision for a really long time. Let's say that you're thinking about starting a business and you think about it for so long that you start it simply so that you can stop thinking about it. It's like, fuck, I am so bored of thinking about this, or leaving a relationship. It's like, I should I leave? Should I go? Should I leave? Should I go? It's like, fuck, I'm just going to break up just because, so that I know if it was the right decision or not, because I can't think about it this way anymore because it's occupying too much of my mind. And then you start the business and it doesn't work and you go back, or you break up and then you need to go groveling back, and maybe she takes you back, maybe she doesn't. But most of these decisions are reversible. The stakes of not making a decision are probably higher than you think, and the stakes of making the decision are probably lower.
Yeah, agreed. This actually goes back to something you said a minute ago. You were talking about, I can't remember in the context, but journaling and what you're doing on a daily basis. And you said something very quickly. You said you play, right? You play and you take the pressure off yourself. And I think this is what you're hitting on right now. We tend to make mountains out of molehills and put so much pressure on ourselves that we don't give ourselves opportunities to explore, is how I would say it. If you're thinking about, I want to start a podcast, I want to go to the gym, I want to pick up jiu-jitsu, I want to talk with that person, I want to ask this woman on a date, like, play, explore, try it. The risk is not there. If it is, and there is a risk, but it's minimal. But looking at that as life as a series of experimentations or playing, and take that pressure off of yourself.
I think as men, especially as the sort of guys that might be listening to podcasts that are introspective and curious, and they think about the world and they think about themselves, that's something that a lot of people lose touch with, especially over the last year. The world's been shut down. You haven't been able to have the adventures that you perhaps used to, go to the gym as much as you used to, see your friends as much as you used to. You've lost that sense of play. You're inside of your own head so much that you can no longer accurately judge perspective. You don't know whether this decision is really as big as you're making it, or if you've blown it out of all proportion, because there's nothing to stress test it. Everything seems massive when you haven't got anything else going on. So finding joy and a little bit of play, it's written on my board there. I've only got 2 things up there, and one of them is find play. Like, I need to find play in the things that I do. Joy has to be found today, right now. If you can't be happy with a coffee, you won't be happy with a yacht. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to find joy today, because it's waiting for you. Like it is in everything that you do, in the interaction that you have with the cashier at the supermarket, in the way that the wind feels when you get outside of your car and have to fill it up with petrol. Like, there is joy to be found in those things. And again, it comes back to the going up the mountain thing. Like, if you spend almost all of the journey thinking about getting to the top, 99.9% of the time you're going to be fucking miserable, and you're going to be thinking about this 1%, and it's going to take you out of the journey that you took to get there anyway.
It's powerful, man. I appreciate all the wisdom. One of the things that you do, and I want to give you a second to tell the guys where to connect with you, but I actually really enjoy a lot of what you do. But on Instagram, you do these like weekly recaps. Like, I can't remember exactly what it is. The things I learned last week.
3 things I learned last week. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, man. I was thinking, I'm like, man, that's a good idea. Like, I need to do that for myself. Like, what were the biggest takeaways from this podcast, or what was the biggest takeaway from, in interaction or experience I had. So I wanted to tell you, I really appreciate those, that they're insightful for me. So how do the guys connect if they want to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Cool. So it's at Chris Willex, wherever you follow me, Instagram, Twitter, Chris Williamson on YouTube, or Modern Wisdom on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There's 3 episodes a week. People like Jordan Peterson, Aubrey Marcus, James Clear, Robert Greene, Ryan Holiday. And yeah, the newsletter that you're talking about, those 3 lessons come from my newsletter.
Oh,
A lot of
got it.
people
Okay.
ask me for book recommendations. So if you want a list of 100 books, the most interesting and impactful ones that I've ever read, it's chriswillex.com/books. chriswillx.com/books. It's free and it'll add you to the mailing list as well. There's 20,000 people on that getting weird and wonderful insights from the last week of my life.
Awesome, man. I love it. Well, thanks for joining us today. Again, I appreciate your wisdom. I've been looking forward to this conversation. It did not disappoint, and we're going to have to run it back soon.
Thank you, brother.